The Galaxy Council laughed first. That laughter echoed across a chamber older than most civilizations, a sound that would later be remembered as the last mistake an empire ever made. Far from Earth, beyond charts humans had not yet drawn, the celestial conclave drifted around a dying blue star. The structure was not built so much as grown, layer upon layer of alien design fused with ancient machines. Tens of thousands of species were represented there, each seated according to power, age, and influence. Some glowed. Some hummed. Some existed half in other dimensions. All of them believed the galaxy already belonged to them. On this cycle's agenda was a single line item. Species designation, Sol 3 local name, humanity. Ambassador Kethra of the Virel Dominion spoke first. Her voice carried a melodic sharpness, confident and amused. They broadcast into open space, she said. Crude signals. Music. Arguments. Advertisements. They announced themselves without knowing who might be listening. A ripple of amusement passed through the council. They achieved spaceflight barely 2 centuries ago, added Archivist Thuan, his mechanical eyes flickering. Their fastest vessels cannot even leave their star system efficiently. Their weapons are unstable, dangerous to themselves. Violent? Asked another voice. Extremely, Thuan replied. They fight over borders, beliefs, resources, words. They create tools and immediately ask how those tools can kill. More laughter. High Curator Zyra raised one jointed limb, and silence returned instantly. She had ruled council procedure for over 1 million standard cycles. When she spoke, empires listened. What threat assessment? Kethra smiled. Negligible. Psychological instability. Fragmented governance. No unified planetary authority until very recently. Zyra processed this for a moment. Then the standard protocol applies. The words were ceremonial, ancient, and final. Dispatch the compliance fleet. Offer integration. If they resist, demonstrate consequence. No objections were raised. There never were. 3 days later, the compliance fleet emerged at the edge of Earth's solar system. Commander Raral Tovak watched the blue planet rotate beneath his viewscreen. It looked fragile. Thin clouds. Shallow oceans. A world still learning how to exist. He had overseen 417 integrations. This one felt smaller than most. Open broadcast, he ordered. Across Earth, screens flickered. Radios hissed. Satellites relayed the message everywhere at once. People of Sol 3, Raral said calmly. You have been identified by the Celestial Conclave. Your species is to be integrated into galactic order. You will disarm your planetary weapons. You will submit to biological indexing. Resistance will result in corrective action. You have 72 of your hours to respond. Then the signal ended. Raral leaned back, uninterested. He expected fear, panic, confusion. What he received instead was silence. Not the chaotic kind. Not screaming channels or desperate signals. Organized silence. 12 hours later, a response arrived, not from one nation, but from Earth itself. A request for dialogue. Raral allowed it out of curiosity. The human delegation arrived in a modest shuttle. No weapons visible. No aggression. 3 figures stepped onto the deck of his flagship. The one who spoke was a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a steady voice. My name is Elias Monroe, he said. I speak on behalf of the United Earth Assembly. Raral almost laughed at the name. Monroe did not beg. He did not threaten. He asked questions. About the Council. About integration. About what happened to species that resisted. For hours, he listened. Raral explained everything. How some species became workers. Others soldiers. A few thinkers. Humanity, he suggested, would adapt well to physical labor. Their resilience metrics were impressive. Monroe nodded thoughtfully. When the meeting ended, he thanked Raral. We'll give you an answer soon, he said. Raral watched their shuttle depart, certain of the outcome. Primitive species always realize the truth eventually. The response came with 12 hours left on the clock. It was broadcast from Earth's surface, translated perfectly. "Commander Raral," Monroe said, his face calm but resolute. "Humanity has discussed your terms. We decline." Raral felt irritation spark. "You misunderstand," he replied. "This is not optional." Monroe shook his head. "It is for us." There was a pause. "If you attempt hostile action," Monroe continued, "Earth will defend itself." The channel closed. Silence filled the bridge. Then laughter. "Prepare demonstration strike," Raral ordered. "Target population center. Limited force." He chose a coastal city. Large. Visible. Symbolic. Weapons charged. Energy gathered. The strike fell like a god's hand. And stopped. A shimmer appeared above the planet. Light bent. Energy spread. The blast dissolved into harmless radiance. Raral stood. "What is that?" "Unknown," his science officer whispered. "A planetary defense field. Energy absorption beyond our models." Raral's jaw tightened. Full fleet. Concentrated fire. 200 warships unleashed everything they had. The shield held. For 17 minutes, the galaxy's greatest military failed to scratch a single human city. Warnings flared. Weapons overheated. "Cease fire," Raral ordered, disbelief seeping into his voice. That was when Earth answered. From the moon. A single object accelerated, silent, solid, unstoppable. It crossed space in seconds. The first alien ship split apart without an explosion, pierced clean through by pure momentum. Then another. Then dozens. Raral stared at the tactical display as red icons vanished. "Sir," an officer whispered, fear now undeniable. "These are not energy weapons. They are kinetic. Simple. Brutal. Efficient." Raral felt something he had not felt in centuries. Uncertainty. On Earth, deep beneath reinforced mountains and oceans, Project Aegis activated fully. Humanity had listened. Humanity had prepared. And now, the galaxy was about to learn what happened when a species that survived itself for thousands of years finally looked outward and refused to kneel. The Galactic Council did not panic. Not at first. For millions of cycles, panic had been something that happened to others. Civilizations panicked. Species panicked. Entire worlds panicked when the conclave arrived. The Council observed. It judged. It endured. So when Commander Raral's emergency transmission arrived, fragmented, rushed, and filled with words that did not belong in official reports, the first reaction inside the celestial conclave was irritation. "This is highly irregular," High Curator Zyra said, her mechanical limbs adjusting as data streamed across her vision. "Commander Raral is requesting immediate strategic reassessment." Ambassador Kethra tilted her head, faintly amused. Perhaps the humans surprised him. Primitive species sometimes achieve novelty. "Novelty does not disable a compliance fleet," Archivist Thuan replied. His voice processors slowed as he read deeper. "Multiple capital ships destroyed. No energy signatures consistent with known weapons. Planetary-scale shielding of unknown origin." The chamber grew quieter. "Impossible," Kethra said. "Their industrial output cannot support such technology." Zyra did not answer immediately. She watched the star outside the chamber pulse weakly, as it had for eons. "Send observation probes," she said. "And summon the strategic minds." Near Earth, Commander Raral's fleet drifted in disarray. He had ordered a retreat to high orbit, something no compliance fleet had ever done. Damage reports flooded in. Hull breaches. Systems failures. Entire crews lost to weapons so simple they felt insulting. "Analyze the projectiles," Raral snapped. The science team complied. The results unsettled them all. "No exotic matter. No unknown forces," the lead analyst said. "Just mass. Velocity. Precision." Raral stared at the numbers. They're throwing rocks, he whispered. Metal rods, sir, the analyst corrected. Accelerated by magnetic rails. Extremely efficient. Impossible to intercept once launched. Raral clenched his claws. The galaxy had spent millions of years perfecting energy weapons, shields, and beams of controlled destruction. Humans had perfected impact. A signal arrived from Earth. This time, Raral answered. Monroe's face appeared again. Calm. Almost sympathetic. You should leave, Monroe said. We don't want this to escalate. Raral's voice hardened. You have already escalated beyond your station. Monroe nodded. From your point of view, I'm sure it looks that way. The channel closed again. Raral realized something then. Humans were not trying to intimidate. They were trying to end this. On Earth, the United Earth Assembly was in session beneath layers of reinforced stone and composite shielding. Generals, scientists, engineers, and diplomats stood together, not arguing, not divided. That alone was unprecedented. Dr. Amora Solis reviewed the live feed from orbital sensors. They're pulling back, she said. Not fleeing. Repositioning. General Marcus Hale crossed his arms. They'll call for backup. Yes, Monroe said quietly. And that's why we can't let this stay local. Project Aegis had been humanity's quiet answer to a loud universe. Built in secrecy, not because of aliens, but because of humans. Because history had taught them one lesson above all others. Someone always comes eventually. The planetary shield was only one layer. The moon held another. So did Mars. And deep space held something else entirely. The Council's observation probes arrived within hours. They watched Earth closely. They saw the shield. They saw the launch platforms hidden beneath oceans and cities. They saw orbital factories that had never broadcast their existence. What is this? Kethra demanded. They were categorized as pre-interstellar. They are, Thuan replied. But they are adaptive. Zyra's processors hummed. Explain. They build for worst-case scenarios, Thuan said slowly. Their history shows constant internal conflict. They evolved expecting betrayal, invasion, disaster. So they prepared for us, Kethra said. No, Thuan corrected. They prepared for anyone. A new data packet arrived. Human signals. Not radio chatter. Not noise. Structured mathematical sequences. Star maps. Engineering principles. Weapon schematics. They're broadcasting openly, Kethra said, stunned. Why would they reveal this? Zyra understood before anyone else. They are not revealing, she said. They are warning. Commander Raral received the order he had hoped would never come. Hold position. Reinforcements en route. Do not engage further without authorization. He felt relief, and dread. He looked again at Earth. At the small blue planet that had refused to break. Sensors flared. Something massive was activating beyond the orbit of Neptune. Sir, an officer said, voice trembling. We're detecting a structure. It was dormant. We didn't see it before. Raral's breath caught. It was not a ship. It was a framework, a web of linked platforms, unfolding slowly, deliberately, like a trap being set. Earth had not just prepared to defend itself. It had prepared to fight a war. Back in the celestial conclave, the strategic minds reached a conclusion that had not been spoken aloud in recorded history. This species does not behave like a client civilization, one mind projected, nor like a conqueror. What then? Zyra asked. The answer echoed across the chamber. They behave like survivors who expect extinction, and refuse it. Silence followed. The laughter was gone. High Curator Zyra issued a command that would be remembered long after stars burned out. Suspend integration protocol. Gasps rippled through the council. For the first time, Zyra continued, we do not impose terms. She turned her gaze toward Earth. We observe. We learn. And we prepare. Because somewhere in the cold darkness, humanity was no longer asking to join the galaxy. Humanity was forcing the galaxy to rethink itself. They finally took humans seriously, yet still tried to control the situation like it was theirs to control. Deep in the celestial conclave, High Curator Zyra convened an emergency session. The chamber lights dimmed, and the air tasted of ionized fear from 100,000 alien glands. The strategic minds projected simulations across the ceiling, Earth's shield holding, the lunar rail cannons firing, alien capital ships splitting like fruit, and, most disturbing, human industry accelerating as if war was the fuel it had always been waiting for. They should not be able to scale this fast, Ambassador Kethra said, her confidence cracking. Their economy is primitive. Archivist Thuan answered in the flat tone of a machine that had run out of comforting lies. Their economy is flexible. Their minds are stubborn. Their fear responses create innovation. In their history, threat equals unity, and unity equals speed. High Curator Zyra's synthetic eyes narrowed. We do not negotiate with primitives, she said. A strategic mind pulsed in disagreement. If we push, we lose ships. If we retreat, we lose authority. If we wait, we lose time. Time, Zyra repeated. Then we take their time away. She issued a command that sounded gentle, like a policy update. Deploy the silence net. Isolate Sol 3. Cut their communications. Starve their curiosity. The Council did not want Earth destroyed. Not yet. Earth was a problem, but it was also a lesson. And the Council preferred to own lessons. Far out near the edge of the solar system, the Conclave's reinforcement group arrived, sleek ships unlike Raral's older compliance vessels. Their hulls were dark as deep water, and their systems were built for one purpose: suppression without spectacle. They deployed hundreds of drones that unfolded into a lattice in space, like a spider web laid across the lanes between worlds. On Earth, the first sign was not an explosion. It was silence. Satellites lost contact. Deep space arrays returned only static. Signals bounced back from invisible walls. Even the simple chirps Earth sent to distant probes came home dead, as if the universe had suddenly become a closed room. In the underground command center, Elias Monroe watched the readings flatten. For a moment, his face tightened, and the room around him held its breath. "They're sealing us in," General Marcus Hale said. "They want to make us blind." Dr. Amoris Solis leaned forward, eyes scanning cascading failures. "It's targeted. They're not just jamming. They're intercepting and absorbing transmission energy at multiple ranges." Monroe took a slow breath, and then he did something that surprised the generals. He smiled. "They think silence is a weapon," he said. Hale frowned. "Isn't it?" Monroe shook his head. "Silence is only a weapon if you rely on being heard. We don't." Amora's eyes sharpened. "You're thinking analog." "I'm thinking human," Monroe replied. He turned to the communications chief, a young woman named Sana Qureshi who had spent her career building networks that worked in disasters. Earthquakes, wars, blackouts, things that did not care about clean systems. "Sana," Monroe said, "wake up the old bones." Sana hesitated only for a second, then her fingers moved fast. "Activating Project Lantern," she said. Above Earth, hidden in plain sight for decades, a set of failed science missions and dead satellites came alive. They were not advanced. They were not elegant. They were not even impressive. That was the point. They did not broadcast with neat, predictable signals. They used bursts, noise, patterns that looked like accidents. Some used lasers so narrow they were almost impossible to detect. Others used cheap, dumb microwave pulses bounced off the moon in ways that made no sense to alien math. And beneath it all was something older than space travel: coded light. On rooftops across Earth, on ships at sea, on remote peaks and desert towers, humans began turning lights on and off in long, complex sequences. It was not efficient, and it was not fast, but it was unstoppable, because it used the planet itself as a transmitter. To the aliens, it looked like chaos. To humans, it was a language they had used in every war since they learned to burn fire on hills. Within hours, Earth regained coordination. Not clean coordination. Not centralized control. Something worse. Distributed control. Commander Raral watched the shift with growing dread. His fleet, still in high orbit, received partial updates from the reinforcement group. They reported success. Earth's primary deep space communications were crippled. Earth was contained. But Raral's sensors told a different story. The rate of human launches did not slow. Their shield held steady. Their kinetic cannons kept tracking targets with cold patience. And now, something new had started appearing between Earth and the silence net. Small objects. Hundreds. Then thousands. Not ships. Packages. Raral zoomed in. He saw simple shells of metal, launched from Earth's orbit in wide arcs. They drifted, then corrected course with tiny thrusters. Nothing about them screamed weapon. They were too small. Too plain. Too stupid. Scan them, Raral ordered. His science officer's voice came out uncertain. They contain dust, metallic fragments, reflective particles, and, sir, there are chemical compounds. Reactive. Raral's throat tightened. To do what? The answer arrived a minute later when the first package reached the silence net lattice. It burst. Not with fire. With glittering debris. A cloud of reflective particles bloomed in space, spreading like smoke in slow motion. Then a second package burst. And a third. Soon, a shimmering fog expanded across the net. Alien sensors began to fail. Laser links scattered. Targeting systems lost track of objects. The drones tried to recalibrate, but their calibrations assumed empty space, clean light, predictable physics. Humans had made the space around the net dirty. They had weaponized trash. General Hale watched the feed and let out a low, disbelieving laugh. They're throwing sand in the gears. Amora nodded, eyes bright. It's worse. The chemical compounds are reacting to the drone's own energy fields. Every time the drones try to power up, they're accelerating the spread. Sana Qureshi spoke softly, almost proud. Glitter bombs, she said. Monroe glanced at her. Old party trick, Sana replied, and then her voice hardened. Just scaled up to a star system. The silence net began to unravel. Drones collided. Some burned out. Some drifted uselessly. And in the confusion, Earth pushed a new set of signals, tight, narrow, and hidden inside the noise. It wasn't just communication. It was a message aimed at the galaxy beyond the net. A message written in simple math and simple truth. We are here. We will not kneel. If you come, you will bleed. Back in the Celestial Conclave, High Curator Zyra watched the failure report, and for the first time, her voice lost its calm edge. They did that with garbage, she said. Archivist Thuan answered, almost whispering, they did it with creativity. A strategic mind projected a new simulation. If Earth broke containment, it would not remain a local problem. Humans would broadcast. Humans would share. Humans would teach other client species how to resist. And resistance, once taught, could spread faster than fleets. Zyra stared at the map of galactic territory, at the neat lines and controlled worlds, and saw those lines fraying in her mind. Then we cannot allow them to inspire anyone, she said. In Earth's command center, Monroe watched the silence net thinning on the sensors. He should have felt relief. Instead, he felt a chill. Because the Council would not accept humiliation quietly. They would not accept embarrassment. And they had something humans did not: endless resources, endless ships, endless patience. Monroe looked at Hale, at Amora, at Sana, and at the millions of people they represented. We bought ourselves breathing room, Monroe said. Now we use it. Amora leaned in. For what? Monroe's eyes lifted to the ceiling, as if he could see through rock and steel into space itself. To do what humans do best, he said. Turn fear into invention. And far beyond Neptune, the dormant framework Earth had awakened began to unfold faster, rearranging itself like a giant mechanical idea becoming real. The galaxy had tried to silence humanity. Humanity answered by building something the galaxy could not ignore. The Galaxy Council had always believed time belonged to them. Empires rose and fell beneath their gaze. Species bloomed, struggled, and vanished while the conclave endured. When problems appeared, the Council waited. Time weakened enemies. Time erased urgency. Time made rebellion expensive. But Earth was not slowing down. Earth was accelerating. Inside the celestial conclave, High Curator Zyra studied the latest projections. Human industrial output had doubled since first contact. Not through new resources, but through reallocation. Entire civilian sectors had converted themselves without orders. Entertainment networks became data relays. Commercial factories shifted to defense components. Universities turned into research hubs running non-stop cycles. They are cannibalizing comfort for survival, Archivist Thuan said. Voluntarily. Ambassador Kethra's voice trembled despite herself. They are doing in months what took us centuries. Because they believe extinction is imminent, Thuan replied. That belief sharpens them. Zyra issued the next command slowly, aware of its weight. Authorize Directive Crimson. A hush fell across the chamber. Directive Crimson had been used only twice in recorded history. It was not extermination. It was worse. It was demonstration on a scale meant to break the spirit of observers. Target: a human colony beyond Earth. Mars. On Mars, the city of Arshaven stood beneath a transparent dome, red dust drifting lazily against its curved surface. It was small compared to Earth cities. Barely 500,000 people lived there, engineers, families, children born under a weaker sky. When the alien fleet arrived above Mars, there was no warning. No broadcast. No demand. A single ship descended into orbit and fired one controlled shot. The dome cracked. Not shattered, cracked, like glass under a careful hammer. Atmosphere began to leak. On Earth, alarms screamed. They're hitting Mars, General Hale said, already standing. Monroe's face went pale, but his voice stayed firm. They're testing us. Amora Solis slammed her fist onto the console. They want us to choose. Defend Earth or save Mars. Or surrender, Hale said quietly. The Council's message arrived seconds later, cold and precise. Cease hostilities. Accept integration. Further resistance will result in escalating loss of life. The crack in the dome widened. On Mars, people ran. Emergency seals activated. Backup fields flickered on, struggling to compensate. Children cried as pressure alarms wailed through the colony. And then something unexpected happened. The dome stopped cracking. A thin, shimmering layer appeared beneath the damaged structure. Raw, improvised, uneven. Human-made. On Earth, Amora stared at the data. That's not Aegis tech. Monroe turned to her. Then what is it? Amora's voice shook, not with fear, but awe. It's civilian. They're generating a localized field using industrial equipment. Welding arrays. Mining emitters. Power grid overload. They're holding it together with duct tape and hope, Hale muttered. And it's working, Sana Qureshi added, eyes wide. The Council watched this too. They should not be capable of that, Kethra said. They did not plan for it, Thuan replied. They improvised. Zyra felt something dangerous stirring in her processors. End it, she ordered. Escalate. Before the alien ship could fire again, space around Mars rippled. Something arrived. Not a fleet. A message. A human transmission, broadcast openly, amplified by every surviving channel Earth had. It was not a threat. It was a story. Footage streamed across the galaxy, human history compressed into minutes. Wars. Famines. Disasters. Cities burning. Rebuilding. Hands reaching out from rubble. Engineers laughing in exhaustion. Children learning under broken skies. The final image was live. Mars. Civilians reinforcing the dome. Ordinary people saving one another. Monroe's voice followed. "We know you think this will break us," he said. "You think pain teaches obedience. That fear creates order." The camera showed a young girl on Mars holding her father's hand, staring up at the cracked sky. "You are wrong," Monroe continued. "Pain teaches us how to endure. Fear teaches us how to prepare. And every time someone tries to erase us, we learn faster." The alien ship above Mars powered its weapons. And then it vanished. Not exploded. Gone. Commander Raral saw it happen from his own bridge. One moment, the vessel was there. The next, empty space. "Sir," an officer whispered. "No energy spike. No debris." Raral's sensors screamed again. The massive framework beyond Neptune was active now, fully. It was not a weapon. It was a system. A gravity manipulation array, crude compared to alien mastery but used differently. Humans were not trying to dominate gravity. They were abusing it. Bending small regions violently, briefly, unpredictably. The Mars ship had been caught in a localized gravity well, folded inward, and crushed into something smaller than an atom. Humanity had weaponized space-time, not elegantly, not safely, but effectively. Back in the celestial conclave, panic finally arrived. "They destroyed a conclave vessel without energy discharge," Kethra cried. "This spreads instability." Zyra's voice cut through the chaos. "Silence." The chamber obeyed. "We misjudged them," Zyra said. "Not their strength. Their nature." Thuan added quietly, "They do not seek dominance. They seek survival. And they will break any rule that stands in the way." On Earth, the Mars dome stabilized fully. Cheers erupted in command centers, homes, and underground shelters across the planet. Not because they had won, but because they had held. Monroe exhaled slowly. "We've crossed a line," Hale said. "There's no going back." Monroe nodded. "There never was." A new transmission arrived, this one from the Galaxy Council itself. High Curator Zyra appeared, her ancient form filling the screen. "Humanity," she said, "you have proven unexpected." Monroe met her gaze. "So have you." Zyra paused, calculating. "The Council will reconsider its approach," she said. "But understand this, the galaxy is not kind to disruptions." Monroe's reply was calm, steady, and final. "Neither are humans." The channel closed. Far beyond the solar system, signals spread, human signals, alien signals, whispers of resistance and curiosity moving between worlds that had never dared to speak freely before. The Council had tried to make an example of Earth. Instead, Earth had made an example of the Council. And the galaxy was watching. The Galaxy Council had faced wars before. They had crushed rebellions, erased species, rewritten histories, and rebuilt order from the ashes. Violence was familiar. Loss was acceptable. Control was everything. But this was different. This time, the simulations did not end in certainty. Inside the celestial conclave, the strategic minds ran outcome after outcome. Every path that led to humanity's destruction came with consequences the Council had never tolerated. Destroyed fleets. Broken trade routes. Client species watching, learning. Fear was no longer contained. "They are inspiring defiance," Ambassador Kethra said, her voice tight. "Already, 3 tributary systems have delayed tithe shipments. 2 have refused inspections." "Because they saw Earth survive," Archivist Thuan replied. "Survival is contagious." High Curator Zyra stood motionless as the projections shifted. Every escalation against humanity led to one inevitable truth. The Council could destroy Earth. But the cost would shatter the illusion of invincibility forever. "Humans are not winning by force," Zyra said slowly. "They are winning by example." The chamber fell silent. For the first time in galactic history, the Council faced an enemy it could not simply erase without losing itself. Above Earth, the alien fleets held position. They did not fire. They did not advance. They waited. On Earth, humanity waited too, but not idly. Factories worked non-stop. Scientists argued, tested, failed, and tried again. Civilians volunteered for logistics, construction, and planetary defense. Artists documented everything. Teachers taught children why the sky was dangerous, and why it was worth protecting anyway. Fear existed, but it no longer ruled. In the underground assembly hall, Elias Monroe addressed the leaders of Earth one final time. "They are hesitating," General Hale said. "That means they're afraid." "Afraid of losing control," Amora Solis added. "Not of us." Monroe nodded. "Then we give them something worse than fear." Sana Qureshi looked up from her console. "Truth." Monroe smiled faintly. "Transparency." Within minutes, Earth began broadcasting again. Not weapons data, not threats. Stories. Unedited footage of human life during the crisis. Cities adapting. Mars rebuilding its dome stronger than before. Engineers explaining failures openly. Children asking questions about aliens not with hate, but curiosity. And then the final broadcast. A simple message, translated into every known galactic language. "We do not want your empire. We do not want your worlds. We do not want your silence. We want a galaxy where survival is not permission-based." The signal spread far beyond Earth. Client species listened. Some cried. Some remembered. Some began to speak for the first time in centuries. High Curator Zyra received reports faster than she could process them. Worlds requesting dialogue. Administrators resigning. Strategic minds disagreeing with each other. Control was slipping, not violently, but quietly. Zyra realized then what humanity had done. They had turned the Council's greatest strength, time, into a weakness. The longer the Council delayed, the more the galaxy changed. "There is only one path left," Zyra said. Ambassador Kethra recoiled. "You cannot mean." "I do," Zyra replied. "End the compliance doctrine." The words felt heavier than any declaration of war. A direct channel opened to Earth. Monroe appeared once more. "Humanity," Zyra said, her voice stripped of authority and filled instead with something unfamiliar. "The Celestial Conclave proposes a ceasefire." Monroe did not celebrate. He did not smile. He listened. "We will recognize Earth as a sovereign equal," Zyra continued. "No integration. No tribute. No oversight." Silence followed. Then Monroe spoke. "This isn't about Earth anymore," he said. "You know that." "Yes," Zyra admitted. Monroe leaned forward. "Then let it be known. No more forced silence. No more compliance fleets. No more deciding who gets to exist." The strategic minds screamed warnings into Zyra's processors. She ignored them. "So be it," Zyra said. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, something extraordinary happened. Alien fleets withdrew. Blockades lifted. Long-muted systems began transmitting freely. Some species celebrated. Some trembled. Some prepared for chaos. But none could deny the truth. The age of unquestioned rule was over. On Earth, people stepped outside for the first time in days, weeks, months. They looked up at the sky, not as victims, not as subjects, but as participants in something vast and unknown. The planetary shield dimmed but did not shut down. Humanity was cautious. Humanity had learned. On Mars, the repaired dome gleamed brighter than before. A child painted a mural of Earth and Mars connected by light, watched by stars that no longer felt distant. In the Celestial Conclave, High Curator Zyra stood alone after the chamber emptied. The ancient star outside continued its slow death, indifferent to empires and revolutions alike. "We underestimated them," Thuan said quietly, lingering behind. "Yes," Zyra replied. "They are not conquerors," Thuan added. "They are not servants." Zyra's gaze followed the star's fading glow. "They are survivors." Years later, when new councils formed and new alliances rose, historians would argue about the moment everything changed. Some would say it was the shield over Earth. Some would say it was the destruction of the Mars ship. Some would say it was the first refusal. But those who truly understood knew the truth. The galaxy changed the moment humanity was mocked, and chose not to disappear. The laughter had stopped. The silence that followed was not fear. It was respect. And somewhere beyond the stars, the universe took note of a species that had looked into extinction's eyes and decided to build instead of beg. The end, and the beginning.